Welcome to Save As Ability, a podcast to educate and inform you about disability employment issues. My name is David D'Arcangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Save As Ability. It's David D'Arcangelo. Great to be back with you here. And we're well now over our 103rd episode, I think, or something like that. So 2 years in here, and we keep going. And this comes from, the topic today comes from a viewer who I interacted with over social media, and they were interested in, hey, Dave, talk about opportunities. You like to talk about ability. Can you frame that? I'm looking for work. I'm a person with a disability, and I appreciate you talking about that. So it's great to know we're resonating with our audience, number one, but this is tailored for you, and you know who you are out there. We're not using names, but thank you for engaging. And please, again, like, comment, share, subscribe. You can find all that information. We're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, we're on YouTube. So any one of those platforms we're on Patreon. Thank you for reminding us, Terlonzo. We're on Patreon and of course, saveasability.com too. But you see our clips throughout social media. You can find us. So again, today we're talking about opportunity through ability. So this comes from one of our central premises here on Save As Ability. You can't have a disability without first having ability. Everybody has ability. So here at Save As Ability, we try to focus on what people can do as opposed to what you can't do, right? We're solving for the challenges and trying to get opportunities there for people with disabilities. And it's all about independence and self-determination. And really, it's freedom. It's a freedom play. So it's, that's what we're talking about. So let's cut right to it. So we're talking about employment inclusion and really making sure that people with disabilities are having these access to opportunities to become employed or self-employed, right? And it's at the intersection of innovation, human potential, again, focus on ability here. And these are important issues that are facing millions of Americans. We've gone over the data, but we'll touch on it a little bit more. But I wanted to make sure that everybody knows we do talk about data quite a bit here. I believe that all of our information should be grounded in data. We need to be making data-driven decisions with good information, right? But work isn't just a paycheck, and it's about dignity. It's about, that foundation of the American dream, and it's the difference between surviving and thriving. And we want people to thrive here at Save As Ability. So I want to make sure people don't think we're just using these numbers callously and we're just putting people into columns and rows. We're definitely not doing that, because behind every data point is a person. And I know that as a person with a disability, as the father of a daughter of a person with a disability, but also administrating these programs, right? So my decades of experience, doing these policies and working these programs, again, both personally and professionally, I know the challenges, or I have a good understanding and appreciation for many of the challenges, but also the opportunities. And that's what we're trying to focus here, trying to be positive. Behind every statistic is a person who wants to contribute not only for themselves and to benefit themselves, but then benefit their organization and as a result, society. So when it's done well, it's a win-win-win. All right, I don't have to preach to the choir. I know if you're here, you believe that too, right? So, but we've got to be sober and we've got to look at the data. So let's have a little bit of a reality check here. According to the latest data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics in 2024, somewhere around 22.7% of Americans with disabilities were employed, compared to 65% of those without disabilities. Okay. So among working age adults, about 37% of people with disabilities had jobs compared to 75% of those without. So this isn't a gap. This is a chasm. And, we've talked about this in many episodes, and we could go on talking about the unemployment rate. The unemployment rate for people with disabilities is about 7.5%, which is about double the national average of people without disabilities. So, but let's look on the bright side. Despite these challenges, we have seen improvements here, both in terms for people with disabilities, both in terms of the labor participation rate, but also in terms of the unemployment rate. So we've got some data points on that, and we know that barrier removal has helped there. So telework has helped. right? The nature of that work and the reasonable accommodations that have been provided through hybrid work, that's helped. Uh, you know, but we still have barriers. And there's some, if you take a step back for a second, well, how do you get to work? Well, to be able to do the work, you need to have the education, you need to have the skills, the training, right? That access isn't always equal access, right? So there's challenges there. The bias, we've talked about that. Matter of fact, we've got a future episode coming with a great guest who we're going to get into the stigma, we're going to get into the bias and data around that. That's very real. That we've looked at the charge statistics at the EEOC, and the number one area of discrimination, many people think it's with gender or ethnicity or race or age or something. No, unfortunately, it's people with disabilities. So we've looked at that data, and the very real concrete barriers of transportation and accessible technology or inaccessible technology, depending upon how you want to look at it. Again, another factor. But then there's that big elephant in the room, and that is people with disabilities are smart. And so if they're signing up for these programs, these cash benefit programs, the healthcare programs, the food assistance programs, the heating assistance, all of the different programs, well, then there's the fear of falling off that benefits cliff and losing those benefits. And like, why, again, they're making a good business decision. Why do I want to go to work, wake up early, work at some entry level or minimum wage job when I can make almost as much or maybe sometimes even more, not working, but getting the benefits? That's a real policy-wise dilemma that we've got to solve with Congress and with the executive and, with laws and regulations, just better policies with work, though, not only the workers, but the business community as well. So that's a more complicated thing. But again, what are we talking about here? We're talking about these barriers, and each barrier to me represents like a missed opportunity. Going back to the data points, like there's a reason why all of these people with disabilities, working age, are not in the labor force, because of the barriers. And it's not just one of the barriers, it's the confluence of all of them. So that's kind of the challenge there is how do you solve for the larger thing? You can't, I think you need to work on all of those barriers at the same time, right? And we need to modernize these systems. The system is fragmented. We've been over that many times, but there are bright spots and emerging opportunities. So let's talk a little bit about some of those. The good news is that the trend is going in the right direction. Like we're not losing labor participation. We're not losing unemployment. Like we're gaining in those areas. So that's good. We've seen that the rise of remote and hybrid work can help and, eliminate barriers to transportation and accessibility and all that. Those are good things. So we know that. We've kind of proven the case there. So in terms of employers being able to provide those as, I wouldn't even say reasonable accommodations. I would just say at that point, terms of work, right? And constructing the job, crafting the job in a manner that's more not only accessible, but available and usable to tap into the talent that this large pool of people with disabilities have. So we know that. To me, that's one example there, right? I looked at an article recently that Forbes had put together about inclusive companies and that they see higher retention rates, stronger culture, broader innovation among technology, adoption, and, all kinds of other things. So those are all positive things. And again, Forbes isn't some left-leaning publication, I don't think. I think it's pretty well middle of the road and respected that if they're seeing these trends and they're writing articles about it, I think that that's a good use case. That's a best practice that industry can take and employers can take to be able to tap into this pool of people with disabilities. So, as we conclude here, a couple of other things I just want to go over. One of the things that I'm doing, like self-employment. Self-employment is on the rise. And now somewhere around 9% of workers with disabilities are self-employed, which is compared to about 6% of their non-disabled peers, which I view that as a gain, right? If we're looking at trends in the right direction, well, that 3% might not sound like a lot, but that's a gain. That's a positive thing. And the gig economy is not decreasing. The trend is that the gig economy is rising. And I think that is beneficial long-term for people with disabilities, because to me, that's more independence and flexibility and, building their own brand. So to me, when people with disabilities can be in on the design of their own work and the way their work is put together, this is how we can help redefine success. And this is what we want to look at when we're looking at these large public benefit programs. How can we build that in? We have indications here that this can be successful and be a win, win, win. Win for the person with a disability, win for the employer, whether that be public, private, doesn't matter, then win for society. Okay. So I think we're on the path to figuring this out. There's a lot of disruption right now in a lot of different ways with technology, with just like the way that things are going. And I just see a lot of opportunity for people with disabilities going forward. So to conclude here, my call to action is engaging with employers about this, engaging with policymakers, engaging with communities of people with disabilities here to commit to action. And whether it's, we've given our program away here. So whether that's being a mentor or a mentee, or, sponsoring an internship, or making sure you're interviewing people with disabilities and hiring people with disabilities and getting them promoted into management and, decision level, management level positions to be able to change this. That's my call to action here. Whether you're a worker, an employer, a policymaker, doesn't matter. Having all this front of mind is going to help move the ball forward. So, we're positive here at Save Visibility. So I hope this helped. We talked around it a little bit, but just know that I've listened to you viewers. Whatever you want to talk about, we're going to talk about. This is your channel and your community here. So we appreciate you. It's David Darkangelo, another episode of Save Visibility. And I hope you have a great day.
For more information about disability employment issues, please visit our website, disabilityemploymentsolutions.com. The Save As Ability podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel at Disability Policy Expert, or wherever you stream your podcasts. Subscribe, stream, rate, and review our shows. Your ratings and reviews help our show reach new audiences. Produced by Pod Pro Entertainment. Save As Ability lives within a network of podcasts located at podproentertainment.com. #TheNewRadio. Again, my name is David Darkangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert. Until next time, thank you. I hope you have a great day.